One of the most popular diseases out there today is type 2 diabetes, which I believe is 100% diet related. Maybe you feel it's genetic or not, I don't know. But when somebody is given a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, one of the things that doctors might say is stay away from the fruit or stay away from sugar. Uh, what would you say to somebody? Because I know when
Well,
you talk about
here's,
they can overcome
here's the,
type 2 diabetes by eating your diet. So what would you
first,
say?
first of all, type 2 diabetes is probably one of the most reversible health problems that exists, and it's reversible with lifestyle change. But here's the problem that typically comes up with type 2 diabetes. As you made the point, type 2 diabetes by definition is high blood sugar. So the idea is if you're eating foods that contain sugar, the idea is immediately you're going to be afraid of those. So someone immediately gets carb phobic. I can't eat carbohydrate. I can't eat plant-based carbs. Here's the problem. The body regulates blood sugar because sugar is the most important commodity in the human body. The body takes that sugar, puts it in little energy factories called mitochondria, and in the presence of the oxygen that we breathe, it transforms that into packets of energy that allow us to do everything. So sugar is critical in the human body. It's so important that the body wants to keep it within a very well-defined range of normal. So it releases the hormone called insulin, which can now attach to cells and open up doorways in those cells to allow sugar to enter. Now, this is important because when you have sugar circulating in your blood, the body needs that for a certain amount of energy, but it wants to hold on to sugar like a savings account. And one of those places that it puts it into a savings account are muscle cells. So when insulin is released, it attaches to proteins on the surface of muscle cells that are almost like a key going into a lock. Think of insulin like a key. Think of the protein receptor on the surface of muscle being the lock. When insulin inserts in that lock, the membrane of the muscle cell opens like a door opening and sugar rushes in where the body can hold on to it. Here's the problem. When you have high fat in the diet, and especially from refined foods, animal foods, but even to some degree in high plant foods, that fat will fill up those muscle cells, making it impossible for sugar to have any place to go. You actually get droplets of fat in the muscle. So when you get those droplets of fat building up, the body blocks the way insulin works to regulate sugar, and you create a problem called insulin resistance. When the body and when insulin's not attaching and working well, the membrane of the muscle can't open, sugar can't enter, and sugar starts rising in the bloodstream. So while you think it's a sugar problem, the real underlying problem is high fat from processed animal foods and so on, not sugar. We have people come into our centers with type 2 diabetes and we give them nothing but carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, and the like. And we see drops in blood sugar 100 to 200 points in a week. They're eating nothing but carbohydrate. So the point here is you've got to understand that it's the high fat that's the problem. And I bring it up because for decades, the American Diabetic Association, American Medical Association, when someone has type 2 diabetes, what's the first thing they do? Take away all carbohydrate and load them with high animal protein and fat, which is only reinforcing the inability of insulin to work. Now, if you got type 2 diabetes, yeah, initially you got to be a little sensitive to the foods. I recommend having the fruits and things with more greens, celery, cucumber, lettuces, things like that, that can modify some absorption, but it's not a sugar problem. It's a fat problem from processed animal foods and high fat diets. That's the real problem. And so we see type 2 diabetes remarkably change quickly. And there's groups out there like Mastering Diabetes with Robbie Barbado. They all follow. They're eating tons of fruit a day. These are type 1 diabetics that are eating tons of fruits, vegetables all day, and a lot of fresh fruit. And their blood sugar levels are very stable. So this has been another big lie and another big confusion in the field of treating diabetes.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, you mentioned type 1 diabetes. If type 2 diabetes is so affected by our diet and our lifestyle, it's commonly thought that type 1 diabetes is different. It's more genetic and not really much affected by our diet and
But it's
lifestyle.
still affected by lifestyle, interestingly enough. The truth is, yes, in a type 1 diabetic, it's usually presented as kind of like an autoimmune breakdown of the body's ability to produce insulin or the way, the receptors are working, but typically insulin production. So these are people that are supplemented on insulin for most of their lives. So the truth of the matter is, it's interesting though, that even though they have that problem, which is more genetically determined, when you put them on these kinds of diets, more fresh fruits, vegetables, and so on, their insulin dependency does become better. It actually improves. So it's telling you that something is changing in a positive way, even from the diet. But in my opinion, it can't be completely corrected because there is a genetic mishap.
So you're not saying genetic and autoimmune are necessarily one and the same.
No,
Is
they're
that
not. But many,
okay?
many times autoimmune problems can be genetically determined. Yes.
Got
They
you.
can they can happen genetically, but a lot of times they can happen in lifestyle abuse across time too. You
Sure.
get changes where the body starts attacking its own proteins and its own tissue, and that can be conditioned by changes in the gut, changes with the microbiome, poor foods over time, stress. Many things can begin to affect that.
See the full video with Frank Sabatino and more about his new book at my website, rawlifehealthshow.com. Look for the description in the link. Thank you.